everybody. This is Craig from the Pacific War Channel. This is Echoes of War. I'm joined here by my co-host Garav, and we have a guest here, Victor. How are you guys?
Hey Greg, great to be on here, and Vic, glad to have you back.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's exciting to be back.
Yeah, we got an exciting subject today. Little confusion on how we're going to title this one, but this is basically Garav and Victor's dream team when it comes to Napoleon's marshals. So that's during the Napoleonic Wars era. But before we jump into it, I just want to say to the audience, if you aren't already checking us out on YouTube, please consider it, as we're going to have a lot of visuals, portraits, maybe some maps, clips in the future and such. And we're using brand new software that makes us look a lot better than what it was before, I assure you. So please check us out on YouTube. And if you want to further support the channel, consider checking out the YouTube membership or my Patreon account at www.patreon.com/Pacific War Channel. By joining either of these, you get access to the exclusive podcast series, which is going to be hitting like 32 episodes pretty soon. I have a lot of bonus content coming out, for example. You get early access to all the content I make, and I'm uploading 4 videos from a few different animators. It's a really interesting month. And voting rights for the subjects I will tackle next. And those subjects do not have to be the Pacific War. Like this podcast can be any types of history, fantasy, even sci-fi. Gonna try some new stuff. So that's my spiel.
I think we've already gone past that. We have gone through other non-Pacific War genres in real history. We've now entered the world of Tolkien. Now I think it's just sci-fi where we need to make our first foray.
Yeah, I haven't touched sci-fi, so could be interesting for the listeners. So, guys, can you please explain what we're doing today?
All right, so Napoleon, in his time as emperor, created the Marshals of the Empire in several promotion schemes. Let's call it like that. So within that, we decided to take all the 26 men who reached the rank of marshal in as as part of the First French Empire, and now they're all an interesting set of people. Some are just political appointments, some were great generals, some were overrated generals. All of them had their own petty squabbles, and as Vic said, with the rivalries and the way they reacted, it's almost like, teenage drama unfolding at a military scale.
Yeah.
So we are putting 10, so Victor and myself, we'll put our 10-man dream team on which marshals we think should be central core on which you were to expand an empire at that time. And this is the criteria that we have considered. So the first and foremost is we are only counting service in, when you are fighting for France or its allies during the specified time frame. So for example, after November 1810, anything Bernadotte did as Crown Prince of Sweden, it does not count because he was not really, say, formally allied as well to the French. But his service as a marshal and soldier before that definitely does count. Second, we are considering the evaluation time frame between the years 1792 and 1815. So when the Revolutionary Wars commenced till the Battle of Waterloo. So anything that these guys have accomplished in terms of military accomplishments, political administration, all of this would technically qualify, but nothing that happened after. So, for example, Marshal Saint-Cyr's reforms for the army in the aftermath of the Revolutionary and Napoleonic Wars, or Marshal Sult becoming the Prime Minister of France and War Minister as well in the 1830s and 40s. They don't have any consideration in our criteria. And the third is we are just making an assumption that their skills, personalities, and also petty rivalries are going to be in consideration. So, for example, if you were to have Marshal Davu and Marshal Bernadotte in the team, you need to be prepared on how you might want to handle them because they both hated each other. So, this is our criteria. And now, Vic, over to you. Maybe you could share and show us your dream team.
Yeah, sure. So my 10 marshals include, unfortunately, Davu and Bernadotte, but yeah, I am prepared. I am prepared. Marshal Davu. This is in no particular order. Marshal Lannes, Marshal Berthier, Marshal Sult, Marshal Ney, Marshal Suchet, Marshal MacDonald, not the fast food chain. Marshal Saint-Cyr, Marshal
I
Bernadotte.
just want to add, there were so many generals at that time who fought for countries that you think they're not part of that nation. Like
Yeah,
General Blake, who fought for the Spanish, was
yeah.
actually Joaquin Blake, and I was like, General Blake, isn't he British? General Wittgenstein, and I'm like, German? Nope, fights for Russia.
I think the
General
Russians had
Barclay,
the worst. Like
General
Barclay de
Barclay,
Tolly, Bagration is like Georgian, I think. Lots of yeah, whatever.
yeah.
Oh, and last one was Marshal Poniatowski. Speaking of different nationalities.
Might I add, the only non-Frenchman to have ever been granted the rank of a marshal.
Yes. Should I screen share?
So,
I have some.
yeah, please
Yeah, go
do.
right ahead.
Or do you want to go through your list first?
Let's finish your list,
All
then
right.
I'll get to mine. So let's just keep that train of thought.
All right. All right. All right. All right. Can you see?
Yep.
Yep.
All right. So this is Marshal Davu, Louis-Nicolas Davu, and I've listed here his strengths, weaknesses, personality, and compatibility. And by that I mean, who does he work well with? I haven't named any names here, but we will get into
We
that
can
in
infer.
due time. We already have, and then convictions. It's like this one was the hardest, but like, what are their personal convictions, their beliefs? What do they fight for? And some of these are obviously not compatible with the others. So, but Davu, I mean, strengths. He's generally brilliant. I mean, he effective at pretty much everything he did. And I wrote unyielding, but he did not back down from a fight. He was severely outnumbered by the Prussians, right? And you can probably go into detail on that in a while.
Hmm.
But he was outnumbered, and he just stood his ground and beat back the Prussians. Although,
Might I add one
yeah, yeah,
impressive thing of Davu because he was one of the first 18 marshals. Technically, he was the only person that had not even reached the rank of general of division. He was still a brigadier general.
yeah. Napoleon was quite impressed by him. Early,
Can't say
not
the
at the
same for
first,
other can't say for
not
the
at the
other
first,
marshals yet.
not at the first time meeting him, but yeah, eventually. But his one of his strengths, being unyielding, also is a weakness at times. So he was extremely rigid and stubborn, and he was also quite unpopular among other marshals, which will be a problem. Um, but also among the rank and file troops, I mean, he was respected but not loved. And his personality, aloof, stern, blunt. He was, I mean, my impression is that he was socially awkward. Uh, might have been like some sort of, high functioning autism going on there. I don't know. And but he was known also for his rivalries, um, because of his strong, unyielding personality. And under his convictions, I just wrote here revolutionary. He believed in the French Revolution, but I don't know exactly what else, because I mean he was not welcomed back to the Bourbon monarchy, so because of his convictions, I suppose. Um, but yeah, that's my first pick. Do you want to talk
Yeah,
about
I
him
think
more?
I might just, yeah, I could just add a little bit. So I'm not going to get too much into detail, but he is known as the Iron Marshal, which he earned at the Battle of Jena Austerlitz, where he took on the Duke of the main Prussian army alone, despite being outnumbered 2-1, held his ground despite the odds, and he was quite a good trainer of his men. So his corps at that time, between the years 1805 to 1808 and such, when it was under his command, the Third Corps was considered the best trained corps of the army. So that's definitely a big plus for him. He did not, surprisingly, he did not play beyond Jena Austerlitz. He was not really involved in any of the other, and sorry, Austerlitz. He was involved
Yeah,
in two of the five great victories of Napoleon, as they are considered, which are Marengo, Austerlitz, Jena Austerlitz, Friedland, and Dresden. No, I would also say Rivoli is an equally impressive victory, but it's not really put in that. But anyways, that is one thing about Davu. And Napoleon knew his battle worth because in the invasion of Russia, when he was given command of the first corps. Now, usually a corps in the Napoleonic age was like between 25 to 35,000 men. if it's at full strength. The first corps of Davu during the invasion, when it started, 96,000 men, the single largest formation. I mean, it was practically an army.
Yeah.
And as you were saying, he was quite rigid and prone to rivalries. So I think the first one is obviously with Marshal Bernadotte, because Bernadotte did have orders to support him during the Jena-Auerstadt campaign. Because while Napoleon engaged with the main Prussian army with the other marshals, uh, Davu and Bernadotte were supposed to come from their flanks to fall on the Prussian rear, but Bernadotte never turned up, and that infuriated Davu. That when Bernadotte would later join against in the coalition against Napoleon, he requested specifically, like, I want my forces to face him specifically, no one else. Granted, in
I,
the end, he just got the defense of Hamburg rather than ever participating in battle.
I think they're both quite similar personalities.
True,
Bernadotte also very rigid and but also brilliant.
yeah, and he also had a lot of rivalries with Marshals Ney, where because they and Murat, because he blamed and Berthier, like these guys at the top. The reason for Ney and Murat is it came to a head during the Russian invasion, where Davu specifically blamed these two for not doing enough to stop Napoleon from the advance. And with also Ney, they both kind of bickered on tactics, especially during the retreat when Ney said that Davu was not supporting him during the retreat because it was Ney's third corps that took up the rear guard for most of the action. Not to mention that's where he also got his title of the bravest of the brave.
Yeah.
And with Berthier, it was a more long-standing rivalry that they had because Berthier would be the guy translating Napoleon's orders in which were just kind of vague notions. And I'll get to that in a bit detail when I also speak. But he also felt like a lot of times that Davu felt like Berthier's orders are just like, the typical staff officer not looking at the ground reality. So that led to a lot of frequent clashes between them. So, yeah, but it's a great choice. Like, he is one of the best marshals, so
Yeah.
fair enough. Who do you have next for us?
All right. My next one is Jean Lannes.
My boy
Uh,
Lance. Sorry,
yeah.
that's
I
my
mean,
he is my
you
favorite
can't.
marshal.
Yeah, but you can't not pick this guy. I mean, I mean, he has everything, right? He's as brilliant as Davu, as brave as Ney, and all that. Charismatic as well. Uh, I did write corrupt under weaknesses. I will see
I don't.
what you have to say on that. But
Okay,
yeah,
you finish it. I'll get to it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, but just generally brilliant. Like good at everything he does. And a brave frontline commander, inspiring his troops and all that. But he does have some of the same weaknesses as, say, Ney, which we will get into later. Both of us, right? Um, in that he can be or could be a bit impetuous at times, like foolhardy. I wrote just rushing in, and he got himself killed. I mean that okay, that wasn't his fault, but he just happened to sit at the wrong place at the wrong time. But yeah, he did almost die many times. And I wrote corrupt because there was this one incident, right, where he was given a role and he had, severely mismanaged that his duties for personal gain. What do you have
Actually,
to say
that
for that?
is not really the case. The evidence that we do know is he did not have that financial literacy for management of expenses because that incident in particular
Yeah,
is regards to the his position as the commander of the consular guard where he went over budget
yeah,
drastically. And Lance also was not really a big looter like several of the generals of the era.
yeah,
So he did not have that personal, enrichment capabilities as like Sult, Augereau, Massena were quite known for.
yeah,
And it was Augereau who bailed him out. So I wouldn't say it is corruption and embezzlement. It was just more like he was also still ultimately still a farmer's boy who
Yeah.
rose to the top in the military world. So he never had access to that kind of training for
So you think
management.
it's incompetence rather than malicious intent?
Yeah, I think it's more likely to that. But I guess he
Sure.
may not have even had the chance to even learn on it because if you're kind of fighting constantly for years, where do you really get that time?
Yeah. I mean, I can accept that reasoning. I guess that corrupt part was tentative at best, but
Yeah,
and his personality, hot-tempered, fearless.
hot-tempered. That the
Uh,
guy had a
yeah, he had a temper. Yeah,
exploded.
yeah,
It's before the Battle of Austerlitz, he felt Sult had insulted him, and this is just right before the eve of battle, and he demands to fight a duel with him
yeah,
on the spot.
yeah.
And
Not the most pragmatic guy at times.
nah, but one thing I do love about him is the simplicity of his command. He never really engaged in complex maneuvers if a simple maneuver would do, and that actually helps with speed. His forces were known to advance faster than most other Napoleonic Wars because of this.
Yeah.
I think if they were these guys were like professional wrestlers, he'd be the guy like getting the tables, ladders, and chairs all the time. But to your point is of his bravery is he led from the front. The siege of Ratisbon being an example of him literally picking up a ladder and wanting to run when his men would not go into the fight,
Yeah.
where he shouted like, "I'll show you that before I was a marshal, I was a grenadier and still am." Now that's quite a ballsy move,
Yeah.
and he did have the genuine love of all his men. They'd go out of their way to risk risk their lives for him,
I
and
mean,
that's really a
he's really the full package, right? I mean,
yeah
everything you could ask for, and it's a shame that he died.
yeah.
Not that it wasn't even due to his own recklessness or anything.
It was just
He just sat down, take a moment to chill, and then just a cannonball out of
well
nowhere
not
just blows his legs out.
well not chill. He did lose like a friend like literally a few
Yeah,
minutes ago,
yeah,
and it was a pretty painful death. But one of the greatest things of Napoleon's respect to him, the only guy who was allowed to address him informally,
yeah.
not Berthier, not Murat, Lance.
I
So,
wrote that he was a Bonapartist. Would you say that?
yeah, I think I could say that. I mean, he was fighting with him since Italy.
Yeah,
Like many of them, they joined the revolution, right? Because you had to be a loud support of the revolution in the early stages to even
for sure.
not get executed and join the army. But he did have that huge personal loyalty to Napoleon that did come from the Battle of Arcole. So that's where, after the battle, Napoleon did present him with a flag that he took into the battle. That's where, like, their friendship was forged.
Yeah, I write Bonapartist not as in the modern movement, more as in personal loyalty to Napoleon Bonaparte.
You meant to Napoleon's first empire
Yeah.
and regime. Yeah, I think that's fair. I would agree with that. Let's go
So next
next.
one, or yeah,
Yeah.
Berthier, Louis-Alexandre Berthier. Um, he will feature in both our lists. But strengths, organization, logistics. I mean, he was the organizer, um, the a genius chief of staff. Weaknesses, anything else. That's his weakness. He can't do anything else but that. You put
That
him in
is true.
charge of an army, and he's like, help, help.
That
um,
was pretty much
yeah,
the War of the Fifth Coalition when
yeah,
Archduke Charles advances and the French army in Germany, which was at that time under Berthier's command, was in disarray.
yeah.
And it's just like takes Napoleon to come over, take supreme command when the situation stabilizes.
He needed his husband to come rescue, and I don't say that as in like he was called Napoleon's wife.
Oh yeah, it was. They pretty much traveled all together, all the
Yeah,
time together in the same carriage because the amount of logistical planning that these two spent, it should not be underestimated.
yeah.
I think,
Um,
Craig, you and I have always advocated, right? The supplies and logistics of armies is way more important than not just the tactical brilliance. And
Yeah, and
Berthier
it's
is the guy that, unlocked that potential.
It's completely overlooked, and this is the historical time period when like command over logistics for field commanders especially, it's much more complicated than in previous centuries. It's like it's exponentially boomed. So yeah.
I think one way we could just really talk about it, right, is when Napoleon took over the army of Italy in 1796, it was basically a slum army.
Yeah.
Underpaid, underfed, under-equipped. Men did not have muskets, bullets, they did not have boots. Naturally, they were on the verge of mutiny. I mean,
I
understandable.
wonder why.
The poor, as some people said, the poor cousin of the French armies of Germany, of the Rhine. Sorry. And Berthier, like while Napoleon and his aide-de-camp when he took over, which were like Marmont, Junot, and Murat, they enforced a discipline. It was Berthier who did set that base by, securing a lot of, uh, food, transportation, and logistical aid, and improving the army supply situation in the months before Napoleon went on the offensive. Now, that also set that solid core foundation.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
that
without food, you can't really fight. I mean, no muskets, no clothes. I mean, you're gonna freeze to death. You can't even fight. So this guy made all of that happen,
no,
and
you can fight and do everything. So many generals just
yeah.
believe their willpower is enough, right? Who
I mean,
needs food?
he picked a quite the, how do you say, inglorious position, because I mean he was indispensable. Like without Berthier, no Napoleon probably.
Yeah, and
But you
I
know, and
think that,
he doesn't have this reputation that was like the others do.
but Napoleon did value him. That's why in the first 18 marshals, he was the first name.
Yeah. But yeah, I
And
mean, I think we will both agree that this guy is the marshal. Like,
yeah, that's why I've actually, like, the way I want to call them out, I've kind of categorized them a little bit, but I'll get to that later. But one thing I really wanted to say is Napoleon, when he issued his grand strategic orders, right, to the marshals, how the corps have to move, what is the sequence of events, it would be a bit vague. Berthier's real talent was putting that vagueness into written orders that the marshals, the divisional and brigadier generals, when they receive these orders, they know what to do. Though at times it caused a lot of clashes, but he was able to read that situation very well.
yeah,
And I think a great example, if you were to compare to another kind of, like, say, general, is kind of Robert E. Lee, Craig. He was quite vague in that southern gentleman mannerism of speaking, but it was only Stonewall Jackson who was really able to interpret the orders properly and
True.
take it into force. But after Stonewall Jackson's death, as you see, right, it
Yeah.
kind of was a big struggle with his army to interpret the orders as how Lee intended.
Yep.
So to me, it's just kind of like, Berthier's ability to influence and interpret these orders correctly. That's pretty invaluable.
yeah.
I think in terms of his rivalries, Berthier also, one was definitely with Davu, which we've already discussed, so I don't feel like a need to repeat. And then he did have a conflict with Ney and Ney's chief of staff.
Jomini,
So
right?
yeah, so Marshal Ney's chief of staff was Henry Jomini, a Swiss civilian, and he just basically tried to impress Napoleon and bypass Berthier. So Berthier never forgot the slide because all of these guys have giant ass egos as well.
Yeah,
That's pretty much it. And as you said, Vic, he doesn't have any military training and competency. He's a brilliant chief of staff, but you ask him to command even a battalion, the guy will struggle.
I mean that, but you know, you can't blame Berthier because that's
No,
just
no,
not what he's supposed to do,
no,
and
I'm not. But because of that, the other marshals saw him as a lesser guy to them.
yeah,
Like Sult, Lance, Bernadotte, all really, like, disliked him for that. And if they would question him, well, Berthier was also an equally petty character, so he would be more
yeah.
than willing
Oh, he was
to.
petty. He knew how to hold a grudge.
Oh yeah, I think I would actually say that all of them. And Berthier also did have a special dislike for Murat.
Yeah.
I think it was mostly during that came to light during the Russian campaign where Murat was the only guy that was still advocating wholly for an advance, despite the Kashmir.
I also have a personal dislike of Murat, but I don't think that
Well,
Berthier had any like strong convictions though.
I don't think so. He embraced the revolution. He's kind of
Yeah.
was, and I think to your point, when Napoleon returned for the 100 days, he was actually seemingly torn between whether he should rejoin the empire or stay loyal to the monarchy in
He
France.
reminds me a bit of Talleyrand, just like as soon as tides shift, he just jumps boat, you know. And
Well, no, I think
should I
that's fair.
should I go to the next one? Or?
Yep, please.
Sult, Jean-de-Dieu Sult, John of God, Sult. Strengths generally brilliant, like very competent, and he was extremely adept at leading armies on his own without supervision. Some of the other marshals, or many of them, they needed Napoleon to micromanage them and all that, but no, he could do this. But his weakness, he got captured and robbed at one point, right? And after that, he was
I believe that was after the siege of Genoa, or during the
yeah,
siege of Genoa in
yeah.
1800,
And after that, he
where
was
he was.
never the same. Like he was
Yeah,
so cautious. He did not want to lead from the front anymore, and his style shifted to a more like managerial approach. So he just gave orders from the rear. And his personality was quite like cold, aloof, ruthless. You could call
and
him
a
arrogant.
big plunderer.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, and he was also known to clash with people because of his, quite like very French personality, I suppose.
Very French.
I mean, yeah, yeah. And I don't think he had any convictions at all. Like he just he was in it for himself, I think.
You know how bad was he as a plunderer?
In Spain,
Yep.
yeah,
Napoleon said Sult was the greatest pillager of them all, and I should have made an example and had Sult shot.
Looking into him after Napoleon's abdication, he initially supported the the Restoration, and then he returned back to Napoleon later. So it seems like he was kind of a flip flopper.
yeah.
Yeah, I think it was, but he did. I guess you got to give him that he had some like political navigation skills pretty well because in the aftermath of rest like Napoleon's final defeat, he still stayed in power. He
Yeah.
got the rank of the Grand Marshal. He was also Prime Minister, War Minister of France. So that means he knew how to move around. So
Out of all the marshals, wasn't he the most successful in France? So
if you talk about the entire career,
like afterward, I mean.
I mean, the only person you could kind of put like a similar claim would probably be Bernadotte, just because he became,
Well, no, but
king of
he
the country.
became no. That was outside of France, but I mean, like within
Yeah,
France. Yeah.
yeah, definitely. It's
L-
not even close.
Yeah. Marmont didn't really get that far though himself.
Marmont, the
I
traitor.
don't. He's not on your list either, right? No.
No,
No. No.
all right. But
Understood.
he
Or
was also a big
no?
clasher. Like, he had his own.
Yeah.
Like we did mention, like, his clash with what do you call Lance, and he had a long-term rivalry actually with Marshal. What do you call Marshal Ney, and this was more on the lines of tactical doctrines and the way that these guys would approach war and all. And it really came to a big head during the when they both were serving in the Peninsula War,
Yeah.
and it kind of like became to the point of outright hatred with each other.
I mean, I can't really think of two marshals who are more dissimilar. I mean, you have Sult, very extremely cold, ruthless, like leading from the rear, and then you have Ney, charismatic, very passionate, in there,
And
leading from the front,
actually,
inspiring the troop.
actually, one thing I should add is Ney had that inner lack of confidence about high command. Sult actually did not. So it's another, polar opposite of these two personalities.
I think we could call Sult arrogant, right? I mean,
He was.
yeah.
But
Sometimes being aloof is just either you're like introverted or you're just like disinterested. But I think this guy actually thought he was too good to speak to people.
yeah, but he was a brilliant trainer of men.
Yeah.
Though
I mean
probably very
that's why
harsh.
he's here. That's why he's here, despite his
But
issues of personality.
yeah, and I think his men called him Bradefer or the Iron Arm
Yeah.
because before he even went into the officer corps levels, Sult was a drill sergeant. So what do sergeants love to do in the army? So yeah, I think that is where I'm just gonna put it for Salt. But yeah, definitely like a complicated choice, and definitely with our team would be causing a bit of troubles. But if you know to
Did
manage
you
it,
did you pick him too?
yep.
Yeah.
I also have kind of like roles I've kind of laid out in
Hmm.
a way, so maybe that will go.
Yeah.
So maybe we can go to your fourth Marshal, Vic.
Well, Michel Ney.
Speaking of the biggest rival of Sult.
Yeah. Well, this guy is very much a man who leads from the front. He's in the thick of it with his men. They love him. He loves them. He died for them, and they die for him. And but his weakness is that he is quite impetuous. He doesn't really think ahead. Um, yeah, and
To
you
that
mentioned
point,
you mentioned that you touched on that his confidence issues. So
yeah, he felt he was never good for high level command. He was like an officer's soldier, like like as you said. I
yeah,
think it was during the Battle of Jena. I always keep forgetting. Lance fought at Jena and Davu fought at Auerstadt, correct? Like because they were the twin battles.
I think
Yeah,
so.
but
Yeah,
yeah. So at Jena, so
yeah.
when
Davu was the Duke of Auerstadt, right?
yeah, okay then, yeah, just wanted to confirm. I keep sometimes jumbling the two. But at Jena, when Ney came, he ignored orders and went straight into the fighting, which required Lan and the Imperial Guard to send troops to bring him out because he was cut off by the Prussian army.
Yeah,
And Napoleon actually said Ney knows just about as much of military tactics as the last joined drummer boy. Pretty harsh for someone who is the marshal.
yeah. But I don't think we
And
should
he
take
was
everything Napoleon says
true,
I mean,
but
he had a short temper and would complain a lot.
yeah, that's true. But it's just more because he did dive into the fighting before the orders for his corps had come on where it would be deployed. So I guess that's where that impetuousness is there. But
Yeah, it
his
is a weakness, but
bravery,
yeah,
bravery is like in Friedland when he led the attack against Bagration, Napoleon called him a lion, and
yeah,
during the Russian retreat, his conduct, the bravest of the brave.
yeah. I mean, he was he was. Um,
But yeah,
I
to
wrote
you,
Firebrand
yeah.
as his personality. I think like fire, just like
That's
he's fire. He just goes in there. Everyone gets inspired. They rally, and he just rushes like a cannonball at the enemy.
not
Doesn't
to
really
mention,
no one has any time to think about anything. He just goes in there and gets things done until
and
unless he
definitely
doesn't.
known for clashes of insubordination. Perfect.
Yeah,
I think
I mean, yeah.
he and Massena in the Peninsula War made the environment very toxic. That Massena, as commander in chief, sent him home in disgrace right after a point,
Yeah,
which is a blemish, but he was immediately recalled for the Russian campaign because Napoleon knew his battle worth. And to the army, he is their guy at that time. Like in 1811, 1810, the marshal that most of the soldiers probably would love openly, Ney. I think that's a fair assumption.
yeah. Um, about
Yeah,
his
convictions are
convictions,
actually
though,
pretty good.
you agree with this, right? Like
Yeah, completely.
he was. I mean, he liked France, he liked Napoleon, but he hated the Bourbons.
Yeah, and that is the reason he got killed.
Yeah.
Because it was like, I think, one of the princesses of the Bourbons who insulted his wife.
Yeah.
Um, he just like, shouted at the princess, and then that pretty much got his trial. And most of them pathetically voted against him. And the man still showed his bravery at the end, though. He
Yeah.
says, he gave the order for them to shoot. And like he said, but he also said, I still protest this. I fought 100 battles for France and none against her.
Yeah.
Wait,
So,
so he gave the orders for his own firing squad?
like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
it was
wow. Okay.
it was in the Luxembourg Gardens,
Jeez.
and
That's interesting.
Yeah.
this is what he was said. He said, "Soldiers, when I give the command to fire, fire straight at my heart. Wait for the order. It will be my last to you. I protest against my condemnation. I have fought 100 battles for France and not one against her. Soldiers, fire." That was his statement.
Yeah. I
It's
mean,
a hell of a way to go out.
yeah,
Yeah.
you gotta respect the guy.
I think it was Marshal Moncey who was the only peer in the French Parliament that voted against the execution of Ney.
Really?
Yeah, even Marshal Victor voted for it.
Mm.
Most of the peers, they did vote for the execution, including Marshal Victor. About 20 people mostly abstained, and only Moncey voted against
Yeah.
because he regarded him as a hero. And should add, Henry Germany, who now served the Russians, he begged Emperor Alexander to step in and uh, have Ney saved because he wanted to protect his former commander because Ney and him formed a really close bond.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So definitely calling him a French nationalist and is pretty good because even at the Battle of Borodino, when he heard Napoleon was not willing to commit the Imperial Guard to battle, he said, "I'm no longer fighting for Napoleon. I'm fighting for France," because he was incredulous that the emperor is not willing to commit.
Yeah. I think.
Though, in fairness, I do agree with Napoleon's decisions not to commit the Imperial Guard.
All right.
I get to that maybe when I speak because I might be hogging too much time on you, and there will be some repeats, right? So let's go.
We don't have
Yeah,
to
next.
repeat like when
Fair
we get
enough,
through our list
but
because I think there's a lot of overlap, right? And
Yeah,
I think at
I
least
was gonna
six
say the
six
same.
of them are gonna be overlaps. Yeah.
yeah.
But
All right. So next
it
one. All right.
was, yeah, I would just say Borodino.
Uh-huh.
Napoleon was correct in my view not to commit the Imperial Guard to the battle.
All right.
All the other units were fully committed into battle. They had sustained casualties. They were exhausted, and most major battles never in that time tended to last several days. So he did feel like he needed to keep a last fresh reserve at the very least. So given, and it's kind of prudent because the Russians also were equally fully committed. So I do agree with Napoleon that he should have. I know that everyone can now put it as a big missed opportunity or what if and all of that, but at the time making that decision, I do feel it was the correct decision
All right.
that Napoleon made.
My next one is Louis-Gabriel
Oh,
Suchet. Strengths, well, organization, and one of these guys who's just like brilliant overall. Napoleon, didn't he call him his best general in Saint Helena?
yeah, he did, and I think he said if he had two Sushis, he would have easily won the Peninsula War.
Yeah. He's the,
And
he's the
I would
only
agree
one
with him.
who performed well in Spain.
Oh yeah, completely.
And weaknesses, no weaknesses. This guy is just amazing.
Because he
But
he
yeah,
doesn't have a giant ego unlike everyone else.
yeah, just a chill guy. And his personality, who's very pragmatic, conscientious, which is a word, and just a decent human being as well. He understands that maybe it's good if my soldiers have clothes. It might be a good thing, and maybe it's good if we don't attack the Spanish, in the villagers and stuff like that. Compatibility, he was very cooperative. He didn't seem to fight with anyone.
Massena kind of disliked him though.
I mean, yeah, But I mean, from
But
his side,
that,
right?
yeah, from
From
his
his
side,
side, yeah.
yeah, completely. But
I mean,
that
there's
was
a
just
reason
because
why
he was
Masema
a
isn't on my list personally. So,
fair enough. But
uh,
definitely with convictions, I agree.
and yeah, he's
So
just a decent human being as well.
he did not freely plunder the Spanish like every other marshal. And it was actually said he got these experiences because of the Italian wars, like, with the French army of Italy. When he saw the way the locals reacted to the hostility. So it kind of formed his way. So he focused very hard on ensuring that his men would not abuse the trust of the Spanish peasants. And he made them know it and let the people also know it. And at the same time, he ensured that his men would get paid. They had their supplies, which is equally important because when your men are undersupplied, that's kind of like reduces your discipline.
Yeah.
And I think one of the most sad things was he actually got a demotion in 1805. He was actually a proven wing commander, like in armies, and got demoted to be a divisional commander within Marshal Lance's Corps for the Battle of Austerlitz.
Yeah, and
Even though no,
Napoleon himself
Napoleon,
admitted, right, that he made a mistake by not trusting Sushi more.
yeah, and he still performed his duties admirably. And the crazy thing is, he got a good pension. He had titles and everything, even by 1805, just not the marshal's baton.
Yeah.
And it was only on Lance's recommendation again in 1808 he finally got corps command. During the siege of Zaragoza, he was given command of the Third Corps.
Yeah.
It's
He
after
was the
that
only
he.
only marshal to receive his baton from Spain, right?
That's
I think so.
correct. Yeah,
Everyone else,
and
you know,
Europe and Russia.
performed most shamefully there.
Yeah, I
I
think the
mean,
only exception I would
this is an
say,
obvious pick, right? I mean,
l-
you
yeah,
are right. So
yeah, I think Lance might be the only other general who performed well in Spain, but unlike the others, he did not stay in the country for too long.
yeah.
So you don't have that same track record of comparison.
All right. Next
So do
one,
you, yep.
MacDonald,
Uh,
Etienne MacDonald,
uh,
McDonald. I don't know, McDo. He was.
I was having French fries today from Max, so
Honestly, like on
that was my
Quebec,
lunch.
I'm not kidding. I don't know if they do this in France, but here they call it McDo when you
Yeah,
go to
I
McDonald's.
think they do that in France as well, McDo.
McDo.
uh, yes. So relation to fast food restaurant aside, um, just I think it's an obvious pick. I wrote Ned Stark in weaknesses because he reminds me of Ned Stark. Just like an honorable man, you know, no sense for political intrigue and stuff.
His
He
outspokenness,
Yes,
as King
his
Louis called him.
outspokenness. Yeah. I That's why Napoleon, I think, underutilized him because with Napoleon you have to like massage his ego a bit, you know, like, but he would just like bam, you know, this is what I think, you know, most of the time he's probably right. Um, Honest human being. I mean, if you're worried, if you pick someone like Murat, he might betray you, but this guy will never betray you. You know where he stands.
Well, he'd only betray you if you go against France.
Yeah,
I think that's a better way. It is quite ironic when Napoleon promoted him, Oudinot Marmont, right, in 1809 to the rank of marshal. MacDonald, he said he was promoted for France.
yeah, for France.
That's actually pretty prophetic because
Yeah,
his loyalty remained to France, not Napoleon.
yeah,
But and about his like strong commitment when Sayers wanted to like get an army sword, right, for his coup. Napoleon was definitely not Sayers' first choice. The first choice was General Joubert, who played a big role at the Battle of Rivoli, Craig, if you remember. The second was actually MacDonald, but he was not considered again because he's too honest and for the skullduggery of a military coup.
Yeah, it seems like Ned Stark is actually a perfect way to summarize that.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was it. And this, because that honesty actually meant like between 1805 to almost 1809, this guy did not have a job technically. And it was, I think, in 1809 he was military advisor to Prince Eugene, Napoleon's stepson, in the army of Italy. And then they performed well in the Battle of Wagram against. So that's where MacDonald was said, made a marshal, because Napoleon said, "You have behaved valiantly on the battlefield of your glory, where I owe you so large a part of yesterday's success. I make you Marshal of France. You have long deserved it."
Psst. Hey you ever hear me talk about some great Pacific War movie or documentary like Pearl Harbor Minute by Minute over on Netflix and feel the urge to watch it for yourself? Uh-oh, you live in Japan and your Netflix doesn't have it? Must suck to be you.
Sucks to be me right now.
Oh wow, season 4 of Demon Slayer is out. Oh wait, I can't watch it on Canadian Netflix, but it's over on Japan Netflix? Whatever will I do?
Oh, no, no.
Being blocked from regional content? With private internet access, you too can watch Demon Slayer Season 4 by switching your IP address to Japan.
Yes! Hell yeah!
Why stop with Japan? With private internet access, you can change your IP address to over 84 different countries and every single US state, giving you access to region-restricted content all over the world.
Nice.
Many websites and services like Netflix are only accessible depending on your physical location, but private internet access helps you overcome these restrictions. Think about it, without private internet access, it's like paying for a TV series and missing out on the latest season. Shots fired, Demon Slayer on Canadian Netflix.
Is that like a personal attack or something?
Ever fear people are gonna find your Google searches?
Banzai! Banzai! Banzai!
FBI, open up!
Private internet access makes sure that those Google searches remain a buried secret, as private internet access encrypts your internet access and has a no logs policy. Think you're safe with the local coffee shop's free Wi-Fi? No, you are certainly not. Private internet access gives you more privacy features than any other software and real-time protection from malware and trackers, giving you peace of mind knowing those Google searches remain seen by you and you alone. Private internet access has a no-log policy that they've defended in court, which means they are not storing any of your browsing data. Hey, are you like me using different devices under one household? Private internet access is available on all platforms and protects an unlimited amount of devices at the same time. I personally use private internet access to unblock movies and TV series from all across the globe, and I sleep easier writing scripts for my YouTube channel and others knowing my data is secure. Look, this is a no-brainer. Sign up with my link in the description of this video to get 83% off, plus 4 months for free, so it ends up being only around $2 per month. Signing up for private internet access is risk-free. There's a 30-day money-back guarantee, and 24/7 customer support is available. So don't forget to click www.piavpn.com/the Pacific War Channel, and a big thanks to Private Internet Access for sponsoring this video.
So definitely,
And he deserves to be on this list. Yes.
but he's not on my list.
Oh, no fast food for you. But I think this guy is just like
Okay, I'll just go to KFC then.
I just think this guy is he's just a chill guy, an honest man, a decent person. He doesn't have an ego. He doesn't clash with anyone. He does what he thinks is right, but that's predictable. So you know where you have him at least, even if you're this Machiavellian, leader.
It makes him a good chess piece, though, because like you said, if you're Napoleon, this guy's easy to place.
Yeah.
Actually, what I also do genuinely admire is him and Marshal Saint-Cyr in the aftermath of the Napoleonic Wars. While they served uh, the army and the Bourbon dynasty, they also try to reform the army to make it less feudalistic, like how it was before the revolution, which the king wanted to return it to. And they also, both of them really worked hard to ensure a lot of the French veteran soldiers were taken care of. they were not going to be prosecuted just because they fought for Napoleon. These guys really shielded a lot of the soldiers, and I really respect that a lot. All right, who do you have next, Vic?
Saint-Cyr.
Speaking, I just had to mention Sancerre in the previous one.
Laurent de Gouvion Saint-Cyr, which is a name. So he's his strengths, planning, tactics. He's a very methodical person and analytical, as I wrote his personality. He will take his time, dissect the situation, and formulate a plan and execute the plan to perfection. His weakness, though, is that he is cold and analytical, so kind of boring to be around.
But brilliant in analyzing plans and maps.
Yeah,
That's actually what he got his job in the first place on
Not
General
everyone
Marshal.
needs to be Jean Lannes or Michel Ney. Some people can actually think ahead.
Yeah, but that was also why his weaknesses were there.
Yeah. But he did. I think he clashed with some people, right?
He also had a giant ass ego, though.
Oh, okay.
McDonald
really
did not really have an ego too much, but Saint-Cyr, if he did not like the person, he's gonna hate you.
Oh.
And
Okay,
I think these. I'll give you some examples if you'd like. So one moment. So I think the first example is definitely, in 1805, where he was initially uh, the commander of the army of Italy that was to go up against Naples in the War of the Third Coalition, and he was then put under command of Marshal Massena, and to him that is unacceptable because he hates Massena. He thinks he's like.
In his defense, Massena is a scumbag, or was a scumbag.
See, Massena was a great plunderer. I think he was only behind Ojero and Sult and Van Damme in that department.
Yeah.
But yeah, see, ultimately he did abandon his post as commander of the army before Massena came to relieve him of command, which, if you really look at it in a pure military sense, that's not really done.
But this isn't something that happened very frequently, though.
Yeah, but at the same time that
somewhat, So do not mix with Massena, and I don't even have Massena on my list. So
yeah, and then he also had the same thing with Ojero,
who is also a scumbag.
Okay, yeah, and he also did not like them because he always believed that soldiers had to be apolitical and not get involved. That was, and which is something you definitely have covered in your convictions.
I wrote Republican, but I don't even really know.
Yeah, he is. He was a very committed Republican in the early days, but yeah, again, he left his command in Spain before Ojero came to replace him.
Yeah.
Which Napoleon even had threatened to have him shot because, from pure military discipline point of view, he technically has the grounds now to do it.
Yeah.
And most of it does come because Saint-Cyr was also a pretty strong thinker and he was intelligent. He knew it, so that made him pretty aloof. And that kind of rubbed the wrong way with all of these big egos of the marshals. And he was a bit detached.
Like the aloof marshals tend to, rub the other marshals the wrong way, like Davu, Saint-Cyr, Bernadotte,
Yeah,
I don't know. The feeling I get from this from Saint-Cyr is that he doesn't have this massive ego. He just has his own way of doing things.
He's just very cold and detached. I think that's a better way to put it.
He's not really that, interested in people either.
He doesn't care about the politics because when Napoleon made the marshals of the empire, like, you can make a case in terms of command experience, like Ojero, Massena. Those guys already commanded large formations pretty effectively. Saint-Cyr also did because he fought in the Battle of Novi, and that was the only part of the French army that did not get utterly destroyed in General Suvarov's great victory. And so he has proven himself well because this guy is a great general in every right. He might not have the same warmth of love for that the men give him, but they respect him.
I think he was just very introverted. You know, and all of this politics and this drama, it gives him a headache, and he's just like, I'm out of here. You know. Yeah, I'd probably rather just like, okay, I can't work with Masena. He gives me a headache. You know, stuff like that.
Yeah, but his battlefield prowess is undeniable, if you ask
Yeah.
me. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, I definitely have him on my list.
I'm personally extremely biased towards Saint-Cyr because I can relate to him a lot.
He's even I
And
can also relate because a lot of my colleagues at work at times kind of feel like I'm a bit too aloof for them.
yeah,
So at least I can relate to that part.
yeah. And sometimes like
But
people will come, oh my God, do you know what this person did? And it's like, I don't care. And then
uh,
they think you're an asshole.
yeah, that's pretty much story of my life also at work at times. But I would definitely call him the most underappreciated marshal.
Or I probably would say my last pick here, but sure.
I mean, this is just from my side.
All right.
So
Yeah. Yeah. That's fair. Next one or
yeah, please. Of
Jean-Baptiste
course.
Bernadotte. And
Vic,
as
am
someone
I
from
am I
Sweden,
really surprised?
as someone from Sweden, I had to pick this guy. But even if I can't include his service record in Sweden, I mean, this guy he was quite special. Generally brilliant. He was as competent as the best of them. It's just that he might maybe even as competent as Napoleon himself in many ways.
I would
Everything he
agree with
did,
that actually.
yeah, everything he did, he not only succeeded at, but he was brilliant. Well, except I guess some missteps. But I think that's more due to his personality, which is kind of like Davu's personality as well. Very rigid, very stubborn. Like, my way, my way or the highway. He's quite serious, diligent, hardworking man. He had quite a strong code of honor as well. Um, he fight a duel with one of his subordinate officers just to like
I
assert
think
honorable
I
conduct or
think,
something.
and if I'm not mistaken, this was like he also got one of Berthier's friends arrested for corruption,
Yeah.
and
Does,
that also earned him the animosity of Berthier.
does he have direct relations to Carlos Rex?
Pardon?
Does he have? Is he a descendant of Carlos Rex of Sweden, or?
No, he's no, but he has no relation.
No,
But
no.
he became king of Sweden after the Napoleonic Wars. And
So
the current
he
dynasty
actually
of Sweden is his dynasty.
he
But
was actually
he's French
invited to.
only. He has no.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. He
it's
was born
very
Okay.
French.
it's quite strange.
Oh, okay.
He's 100% French. The Swedish king was childless and old, and they adopted him. He invited him.
Because of his treatment of the Swedish
Yeah,
soldiers in the war.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
yeah. So he just got invited to become king of a country because that's how good he was.
And I think I would add one thing.
Yeah.
His advancement in the officer corps was intense. He was promoted to the rank of major in February 1794. 6 months later, divisional general.
Yeah.
Even Napoleon, Saint-Cyr, Sult, who were like all these big fast risers, they still kind of took almost 2 years from officer rank to reach the rank of a divisional general.
I think Bernadotte was uniquely predisposed to having a poor working relationship with Napoleon, because I mean he was Napoleon's equal in many ways, but he didn't want to be treated as a subordinate.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think his service record for France isn't actually that good. It's more what could he have done, and the few things he did do were brilliant.
I think his march to Rhine for when finally the Directory decided to support Napoleon in the war in Italy in 1797 after Rivoli. Bernadotte made a brilliant crossing, without Berthier, I might add, of the Alps with over 60,000 troops. And that combined with the two divisions that Napoleon took from his army of Italy, they were all placed under Napoleon's command, since Napoleon was at that time by the directory theater commander. That is when they marched into Austria and ended the war. So he's brilliant at logistics, but quite fierce and proud. And that independence is actually what caused him, at the Battle of Aspern, he and Wagram both at both times he would in 1809 pull back his Saxon corps without Napoleon's direct orders.
Yeah.
So I think
Yeah,
Napoleon
that's
actually
the weakness
was
too.
threatened.
He does his he does. I guess you could call him insubordinate.
He was.
But
I think
maybe it's about how you treat him. Like he's like a
yeah.
cat. You can't
I
just
think
like come here. You have to like let them come on their own terms.
and I think it was I think Napoleon was definitely threatened by him, especially since he was also related to Napoleon's family by marriage. If I'm not mistaken, his wife was the sister of Napoleon's brother's wife, Joseph's wife. Right.
Wait,
So
Desiree
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 Clarice.
Uh,
Yeah.
I don't
Before
even know.
Napoleon went to Josephine.
And
Uh,
I think his son married the daughter of Eugène, so that like quite the inbred Napoleonic family there. Yeah, I
but
think
yeah,
Eugène had he married Augusta of Bavaria, and their son Josephine was married to Bernadotte's son. Yeah, that's how. I think that's how it was.
okay, I'm just lost. I'm out. But I think I would just add this one thing is Bernadotte. He did get permission from Napoleon to ascend to the throne of Sweden.
Yeah.
And Napoleon did give it, even though when Bernadotte said that he's not just going to blindly ally with France as crown prince.
I've seen people call him, a traitor or like being self-centered or he was self-centered, self-serving. But I mean that's just not fair. I mean he said that.
Napoleon actually never called him.
Yeah, but he did say
Napoleon never
that
acknowledged him as
if I become crown prince of Sweden, I will
Swedish interests first.
sever my ties to France. I am now Swedish. I will, and that's exactly what he did. And
See,
he kept his word. Is that
see,
dishonest?
I don't think he would have, like, if he got an alliance that was mutually beneficial to him. Also, he would have allied with France definitely, because I do believe he was going to be Sweden first, right? As his
Napoleon still treated him like a subordinate, like he did everyone else, every other head of state.
I know.
So
I'm just stating that if Bernadotte saw an advantage for Sweden, he would have probably done it. That's it.
Yeah, absolutely.
To me, Murat is an example of a real traitor.
Exactly. Or
I mean, the guy without telling Napoleon, he did officially march against him in 1813.
Well,
and 14.
he lied to his face as well. He said like, I'm just going back to Naples. I'm just gonna assemble an army and he attacked him.
Yeah, and that is a proper traitor. Like Bernadotte at least was honest up front.
Yeah.
So, because I think his accomplishments are kind of nerfed because of the emperor, I did not put him, and also I'll explain why when I get to my choices. But I can't disagree with him being here.
Yeah.
He is a very inspired choice, because if he got the chance to shine, probably would have outshone Napoleon.
There's the thing about this, that what we're doing here is it's
a what if.
How good would they work not only with each other but with us? And neither you and I are Napoleon.
True enough.
Yeah. So if you don't have Napoleon's ego, which is admittedly justified, but if you don't have that, then this is not going to be a problem.
All right. I guess who do we have next, or are you done with the Oaks?
I just want to touch on
sure
his convictions, right? So he doesn't really seem like he had any convictions whatsoever. Instead, he had his own personal code of honor and a very rigid mindset of soldiers should be like this. This is how we should do things. That's all I probably have to say on that, though.
Fair enough. So, is
Next
this
one.
your dream team? Yeah, please.
I think this is the last one.
Yeah, I can see
No,
that.
this one, yeah. Ponatovski. Unfortunately, I don't speak Polish, so I won't be pronouncing it correctly. But Joseph Antoni Ponatovski, he was one of the great what ifs, right? He seems to have been just brilliant at anything he did, and he was also just as brave as the likes of Lan or Ney. And I don't see any weaknesses. Like he wasn't reckless like Ney, or he didn't have those personality issues of anyone else either. Or maybe it just didn't. He just didn't stick around for it to reveal itself, though. That's a possibility.
That is there, but he did perform well. Like when he supported Napoleon with who was destroying Europe, marching through Europe, so that allowed the Polish state to get formed again, because the partitions of the last couple of decades really wiped Poland off the map.
Yeah.
And he performed very well against. I think just maybe just playing to your convictions is he and his Polish troops performed very admirably in the invasion of Russia, fighting with ferocity, which was also motivated by the Polish nationalism and pride. And they were not really on.
Good, right? It must have felt good, after the Polish partitions to invade Russia,
Yeah. And he did. Unfortunately, the way he died was just so tragic, because he was commanding the rear guard in the city of Leipzig in the Battle of the Nations. He tried to swim ashore after the bridge that was supposed to allow the evacuation was blown up too early by a panic corporal, it seems, and he drowned. He'd been marshaled for just 4 days.
He seems like he'd have been the a perfect king of Poland if it had become independent. Like he was brave, serious, heroic. He didn't have a massive ego, and all that. So the only thing to take into account then is that the only reason he fought for Napoleon was because for Poland, that was not confusing at all. Napoleon, Poland. But yeah, he fought for Napoleon to establish an independent Polish state. So I guess, yeah, where you have him as well, just like MacDonald. Don't screw over Poland, and you have his loyalty.
Yeah, unfortunately, I just had a bit of a power cut, so oh well.
It happens.
Yeah, I think, but he is definitely a great choice of a general. I mean, but I do have my dream team ready to go now.
All right, gonna stop sharing the screen.
One moment, just opening up. So a lot of I think around 60 to 70% of mine will overlap with Vic. And maybe some points that I did not address when we were talking about them in Victor's Zone. I'll just address those extra new points, so it's not going to be, repetitive.
Yeah.
One moment. Okay. Next. All right. Just let me know if the screen's visible, guys.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So I think it's a no-brainer to have Berthier in the team, and I do want him as like a chief of staff. It's a no-brainer. He was ahead of his time when he was performing these duties and relaying orders, and I think the way he just organized, even like for the Russian advance, that is also a very underrated aspect, because he did, if you really look at it, if the Cossacks were not a real big threat, the Grand Army had enough supplies to really want to, continue its advance. And I think another fact is, Vic, we did talk about him being the second wife, so this is like an example, because they were known to travel together, planning all the logistics, and
yeah,
during
probably spent more time together than they did with
Then
each other's spouses. Yeah.
that's good. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, during the Russian advance and such, with the Cossack raids, he was working tirelessly to help with the supply situation where they can forage everything, right? Because even as chief of staff, he also is deciphering like the intel reports and everything. That is just like the supplies and logistics is just one arm of work that he's doing, but he is also adjusting for the supplies, going through the intel reports, saying, okay, maybe we got information that the main Russian army of Bakhtin is here, Prince Bagration is here, we think the Cossacks might be here, etc. It's a pretty tough job that he said that even a simple private has a easier job than me right now. I mean, I can't really blame him. But again, this is the reason I would put him, just because of his key ability to put orders into written state, like verbal statements into written orders that the marshals could perform. So definitely I would be putting him. Now second, I'm also going to put Sult, but here I'm going to have him kind of in a role like not as a chief of staff, but like an administrator and trainer of men at home. Now I could not find a large enough picture of Sult in his marshal's uniform that was, otherwise if I was scrolling in the pixels, which is too bad. So it's this older picture of him as the Grand Marshal. But Sult did train his men well, and he learned it from Lefebvre, another fellow marshal, right? He was the chief of staff, and the crack commander in Lefebvre's division as well. And Sult, before he even took command of the Grand Army's Fifth Corps, right, as it became known later, the man was commanding the French invasion camp of Boulogne, and he trained his men so freaking hard that even Napoleon was like, "Yeah, aren't you going a bit too hard on these guys?" And he said, "Those who cannot endure what I personally did should just stay in the barracks, but for the rest, we have the world." So that was it. And in the Battle of Austerlitz, it was Soult who was praised for his conduct of the war, because during that Battle of Austerlitz, Soult led the decisive attack onto the Pratzen Heights. Right, if you see here in this map, we have Soult here, and his two divisions, which were commanded by Generals Van Damme and Saint-Hilaire, were actually hidden by the mist. So they just knew about Davu's corps that would be here, that will be coming here. They knew about Murat, Bernadotte, and the Bessiers and Lance forces, but Soult's units were not visible due to the fog in the winter. And when they attacked, it was a decisive victory that allowed them to win. And he was praised, but you got to also admit that Soult had two guys who, in their own right, could have been marshals. I don't know if you would agree with that, Vic, but General Saint-Hilaire and General Van Damme.
I don't really have strong opinions on them because I don't really know that much about them, to be honest.
Fair enough, but Saint-Hilaire definitely was, I think, a guy who should have been a marshal for sure. Very talented divisional general. Van Damme, well, if you guys got plunderers like Sult and Massena in the army, then you can't have the king of the plunderers. But yeah, we definitely have to consider Sult for this. And yeah, and if he's also, to me, kind of at the home doing the admin work, because he does have some staff capabilities as well. Not as good as Berthier, but he could do the trading and that administration from like the home front. So allowing high quality recruits to come through for reinforcements. And to me, that is important that he would not be near the front, so that he's not going to be clashing with everybody. Because otherwise, I'm just going to have to be putting out fires if I was the Supreme Commander.
Yeah.
So that is one definite reason I would put him here. Now, next, I'm going to go into those I will be calling my independent commanders, people who will be given freedom of action on their own wings and independent commands, that I can just give a general direction and objective and then the resources and leave them to it. I think it's not a surprise I'm having Jean Lannes here. And
It's your favorite.
I can he's my favorite marshal. I openly can admit to that. It's also one reason I did not want Murat and Bessiers.
There are
I'll
plenty of
openly
reasons not to want Murat.
this is one of my biggest reasons, I'll admit, but yeah, there are military reasons as well. But Lance is one of the bravest guys. So this is like the Battle of Lodi, and it is said when they crossed the river, Colonel Lance, who commanded the grenadiers of the army of Italy, was the first guy to just jump ashore and cross onto the Austrian lines. At the Battle of Arcole, he was actually wounded, and when he learned that the Austrians are about to attack back, he discharged himself to lead a counterattack in person.
Was
This
that
might
where
not
he got shot in the neck, or was that in Egypt?
That is in Egypt.
Okay.
I was going to get to that
Oh,
actually.
okay, sorry. Spoilers.
No worries. It's not a very supreme thing, and it was actually that's where Napoleon gave him the flag that he used to try to rally the troops at Arcole. That's where the friendship was formed. And to your point about Egypt, it was at the siege of Acre where he was shot through the neck, and his men actually risked their lives to go out and save him.
Yeah.
Definitely showing that he's a commander that's earned the respect and love of his men. It wasn't like just handed out; he took it. And
spoilers.
So the reason is one sec. So and even at the Battle of Marengo, he was commanding the left side of the front as well. He and Victor did do quite well in terms of at least stemming the Austrians' tide. Marengo, despite being one of the great victories of Napoleon, you can't really attribute too much to him in that battle. It is really down to the able leadership of many of the generals like Victor, Lannes, General Kellerman, and General Desaix. I think they are the real heroes. But yeah, and then he, as we said, he had this argument with Sult and got pissed off with Napoleon that Napoleon did not give him the credit for the victory at Austerlitz, where his corps in the battle did what do you call take over 7,000-8,000 prisoners. But in the Jena campaign, this was the action at Saalfeld where his units definitely routed the first Prussian division they encountered, which killed even Prince Louis, cousin of the King of Prussia, which I think is the depiction that is done here. And he did very well at Jena. And to me, his greatest achievement is definitely at Friedland, where initially it was just his reserve corps that was attacked by General Bennigsen's army. And through skillful delaying action, he did not attack them because he knew he was heavily outnumbered. He got the Russians to, pull in a lot of soldiers onto the other side of the western side of the river Alle. And that set the stage for Napoleon's victory against the Russians at Friedland because thanks to land skirmishing, he drew out, I think, maybe all but 6,000-7,000 of the entire Russian army onto his back because he did not collapse. And at night, thanks to the quick arrivals of Grouchy and Oudinot's units, he had enough men to, stem the advance till Mortier, Victor, Ney's corps, and then the Imperial Guard all arrived. So definitely is. And if I'm not mistaken, Lannes is the guy that fought in 4 of the 5 greatest victories of Napoleon. So definitely, one guy I would put.
No brainer. Yeah.
And this was again the siege of Ratisbon, where I did mention, right? He was willing to pick up the ladder when his men were not ready to attack, telling them that he's still a marshal, grenadier, and not a marshal. And when he died in the Battle of Aspern Essling, in the aftermath of it, Napoleon said, "I found him a pygmy, but he left me a giant." And I'll go out on a limb and say this: if Lannes did not die at that battle and still continued service, and he would have definitely been part of the invasion of Russia. I think he would have been the decisive factor that would have been able to convince Napoleon not to advance via Smolensk when the marshals tried to stop him. Now that's just maybe a small alt history take I'll just put, but that's me. Now again, another independent commander is General Suchet, Marshal Suchet, sorry. One also because Lan would work well with guys he trusts, and Suchet was someone he did love also. Because if he did not respect and like him, he would definitely have not recommended him to command the corps. And I think it is Suchet because his definite proven command and the commanding the the French forces in Aragon, where he protected the civil, like he won a lot of victories against the Spanish and also the Spanish bandits, right? The so-called partisans who wanted to fight the French but just wanted to get a quick buck by plundering the helpless villagers. And it's actually pretty cool that in one of the early battles when Suchet took command of Third Corps at the Battle of Alcañiz, uh, a drummer panicked very easily and sounded the retreat, which caused a panic and the French to suffer almost 1,000 casualties in that confusion. And he restored morale pretty well and quickly. Mostly, I guess he first had the drummer shot. But okay, I guess you sometimes have to take these drastic steps.
Yeah.
But later he would, despite being outnumbered 2-1 at the Battle of Maria, which was just barely a few weeks later, he crushed a much larger Spanish army. He would take over, the subjugation of Toscana, Tarragona, and Valencia. So it was the fall of Tarragona that really secured him the marshal's baton. And he was so loved by the Spanish. It's actually said that when Suchet passed away in 1826, the people of Zaragoza who held him in such high esteem actually had a mass in the cathedral to pray for his soul.
Yeah,
And
I mean
given
that
the
really
reputation,
speaks to his decency and yeah.
especially if you consider like how pretty much every other French general behaved in the conflict.
Yeah, I mean he could have easily have plundered and looted like the others, but he didn't.
Exactly. And I think that symbol of what he did, I think that just speaks volumes that I cannot just express into words. So yeah, this was just a map of his advancements on. Usually it was like in the western side of Spain where he really held power. As we can see, we had Marshal Sult, Marshal Victor, and Massena all, you know, functioning in this area. Might also add Sult, should have added when Sult took command, he did have a missed opportunity to beat the first English army at Corunna, but was not successful. Now, this is my other independent commander, Marshal Massena. I know, Vic, you are not fond of this guy, but I
No.
still do like the dear child of victory, as he was known.
Yeah.
Granted, he does have his personality conflicts as well. So, but his battle prowess at its peak, I think it's undeniable.
I don't dispute
Uh,
that. No.
yeah, because if you look at Napoleon's early commands in the Italian wars, Massena's division, more than Augereau, more than Serrier, more than Joubert, and whoever were the predecessors before Joubert got command of that division, the division of Massena was the king. They were the most valued. I think, if I'm not even mistaken, the 14th Demi Brigade was, which was like the most famous regiment of the Army of Italy, was part of Massena's unit. And this is, I think, a great idea to say how Massena was valued. Is, I think, midway when Alvinci had taken command. So this is in the second half of the year 1796. Massena had requested permission to go home, be relieved, and head home to France to recover, citing exhaustion and health. General Sevier had got that permission just a bit earlier. Massena was refused that because Napoleon did need him, and his performance at the Battle of Rivoli, right, where he took the left flank of the Rivoli Plateau's formations. That is also after making a pretty rapid march from Verona in the preceding few days, and then was playing a big role when this was one of the two divisions from the army of Italy that linked up with Bernadotte's units, and Massena's division was marching through the Tyrol, you know, destroying the demoralized Austrians in front of him. Though I do admit he does, and his second battle of Zurich also is a great example of his skill. The first battle where he lost the city to Archduke Charles in 1798, he was outnumbered, but still just maybe lost like less casualties and inflicted a bigger beating on the enemy. And in the second battle of Zurich, he completely destroyed the Austrian army there, which allowed France to maintain control of the Swiss. So it's really down to him. And he was quite respected because even when he commanded in the Peninsular War, as we see here, right, he was predominantly in charge of subjugating Portugal and the British. And while ultimately not successful because he could not breach the defensive lines in front of Lisbon, the Duke of Wellington himself said he would always not sleep properly when Massena faced him in the field. But yeah, I would definitely have a lot of issue, like I have to keep him on a tight leash for his plundering because he was quite charming at that activity. It's actually why, despite Napoleon's orders in the first Italian campaign, the province of Piedmont was heavily plundered because the soldiers knew that if Generals Massena and Augereau were the biggest plunderers, they are not going to face too much consequence. And yeah, definitely he did have his rivalry with Sult and Ney, and both came in the Peninsular War. So I'd have to definitely manage that. So, but if Sult is behind the lines, they're not really directly involved because their conflicts stemmed more from on-field military doctrines and decisions. So that's just my way of wanting to, manage those expectations. This is like him at Zurich. My other fourth independent commander, I would definitely give to Marshal Saint-Cyr. I think we explained pretty well about his capabilities, but in a way, I would also put him in charge of areas where I might expect a strong enemy advance because he was considered the best defensive general of all. Even Napoleon noted that. I think it was Napoleon said, in the art of defense, no one is better, though I am superior to him in attack, which, okay, I cannot question that. And it is actually thanks to Saint-Cyr's defense of Dresden that allowed Napoleon to kind of, catch the much larger coalition forces and inflict a pretty big victory. In that battle, it was 10,000 French casualties, inflicting between 38 to 42,000 on the Austrian, Prussian, and Russian forces. Anything you'd like to add, guys, on any of these marshals? If I continue.
No, I mean, we same pick, right? It's just, I guess
Yeah.
I could have some things to say about Massena, but I already have. So.
I mean, feel free.
Nah, we can go through
All
after
right.
you're done.
Okay, my next is Michel Ney as well. And as we both said, this is why I love him. This is like his Russian retreat, and that's where he earned that title, the bravest of the brave. And it said a French cavalry colonel said, the presence of Ney on the battle, like, flashing that confident smile, encouraging the men, talking to the generals, even while the situation looks so dire, that really inspired many of the soldiers to fight on. And it's really a very, very admirable trait. And it was said, like, when his rear guard was isolated near, or like, by the Russians and called on to surrender, he just said, "Screw this, we're going." They crossed the river Dnieper, I think it was, uh, with Ney personally pulling the men out of the frozen water that they fell through, and they were going through the square, and that's how they rejoined the army and then continued the rear guard action. So I would definitely be having Ney for this, but yeah, he does also have his command, but Ney would be the first of the next four marshals who would be, like, say, under direct command with me if I were the supreme commander, because if they have a clear vision and plan, they are able to perform very admirably. Because one thing is, Ney, when he was facing the coalition in 1813, in the build up to the Battle of Leipzig, he did kind of, like, blunder into a few traps when just given independent command, like several other marshals. Even MacDonald also walked into a trap as well. So it is with that consideration in mind, I want to put Ney as, like, a commander just under my direct role and supervision. So while the others, Sonsi, Masena, Sushi, and Lance, would be like full independent commanders, these four that I'm going to be talking about now will be, like, on-field direct tactical commanders to me. Now, the next is Marshal Oudinot. Now, he's nothing brilliant, okay? He doesn't have that tactical flair of, say, a Lance or Ney or Sult and such, right? But he was a man that the men loved. He could inspire them, though when he's not recovering in the hospital, because I think this is a good example of why. It is said he was injured like 30 times in his battle career. So yeah, that is it's a miracle he did not die so soon, because he died at the age of 80, my dad. But with Udino, you get this kind of soldier, man for his man. And not to mention, he did actually capture a ship with land forces. And more importantly, Udino was one of the two marshals who was supposedly never had to have had any big feud with any of the other marshals. Vic, would you like to guess who was that other guy?
Mm,
He's not on our list, but
oh,
he never feuded with anybody.
is it? It's not one of the honorary ones, though.
No,
All right.
but I did flash his name in one of the maps.
Oh. No, I can't think of it.
Marshal Mortier.
Mortier. All right.
Yeah. It was in the Battle of Friedland map where he took up the center when he reinforced lands on the second day of battle. That's where. But these guys were pretty good at not feuding and just being soldiers. So I think that would be good for me, because then it's just like one less thing to worry about. I just would have to probably worry about his medical bills. Next, um, this is personally my favorite, Marshal Lefebvre. Just the pure soldier. I think that's the only way I can describe him. He was a veteran. He knew to fight. He cared for his men. Nothing super brilliant in independent command, which was seen in the 1808 Napoleon intervention, where Lefebvre actually commanded one wing and Lance commanded the second wing, and Lefebvre was not able to move fast, but he's a man that is going to inspire his men, care for them, and that is pretty good for me as a battlefield commander. Great example being the siege of Danzig, where he also led them in person, despite being, I think, by the time 50 years old. So he led the men of the 10th Corps on an attack against the city of Danzig in person. And it's nothing really flashy for me to say, except for that soldier's mentality. And he was still quite an honest person as well. I think one example was in the aftermath of his of the Napoleonic Wars. One of his friends commented about Lefebvre's wealth. He invited him to the courtyard and said, "I'll have 10 shots at you with my musket at 20 paces. If I miss all 10, the estate is yours in full." When that friend declined, he said, "I had 1,000 bullets fired at me at closer before I got all this." And I would even go as far as to say Sult's foundational knowledge only came from Lefebvre, because Sult also publicly acknowledged that he learned a lot from him. And during the Russian retreat, he commanded the old guard of the Imperial Guard units. And despite being 56 at that time, he marched the entire retreat on foot at the head of the guard. So that's definitely one. And my last marshal is Marshal Victor. Vic, this is to honor you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So I think at times in the past, for the audience, is I've called Victor Marshal Victor quite often just because he also likes the Napoleonic eras. But Marshal Victor, in all essence, was still a very capable general. And I think the support he gave Lance at Montebello and Marengo, I think this is a great example because Marengo his units were first at the front that skirmish with the Austrian forces of General Melas that came out from Alessandria. And it was Lanz and his men and Kellerman that kind of like for the first part of the battle managed to hold back the Austrian advance before they overwhelmed them with numbers and much more artillery. And they did manage to fight hard despite the severe pressure, holding the line. And that's where you can definitely give Victor the plus. He performed very well in the Battle of Friedland, where he commanded Bernadotte's first corps, as Bernadotte was recovering from a gunshot wound, and led an attack with Ney and Mortier, Lanz, and Grouchy that crushed Bennigsen's army there. He played a sort of central support role, I will call it, during the Russian campaign, where he was mostly in charge of supporting the supply troops and such, where he did his best, but the Cossacks were just too maneuverable of a force. And I definitely would say he performed very well at the Battle of Leipzig, because during the Battle of the Nations, his troops fought very valiantly on the first couple of days, denying the villages to the overwhelming might of the coalition armies. But yeah, I think his biggest regret, and also something even I do not like, is his decision to vote for the execution of Marshal Ney. Now that's something that really hurt me quite a bit. And it is said that Victor actually regretted that decision for the rest of his life. But yeah, this was I would call like my dream team. Happy to hear your thoughts, guys. If you have any questions and comments.
I mean, if you want to discuss, we have 4 marshals where we differ, 4 slots. If you want to discuss it, then we can do that. But I mean, there's only really one of yours that I feel strongly about, and that's Masséna.
Is that fair enough? But as I said, I had kind of segregated my marshals dream team in kind of roles, right? Like Berthier being my chief of staff, Sult kind of playing more of a training role, so that he doesn't also get the opportunity to plunder and cause havoc with the other marshals. And Masséna with independent command is still a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah.
So
I would just say
I
about
think
Masséna, like his ability is undeniable, and it's not because of his him being a scumbag that I didn't pick him. It's because, well, partially, but he was past his prime though, wasn't he, when he was a marshal?
he was, but I think if you combine him and put him in a proper theater, where maybe like say someone like a Lance and Sushi are taking on the way more capable opponents of that theater, right? I think Massena could still easily hold his own. Maybe he may not be the kind of, even at that time, the general that might say beat like say Lance, Napoleon, Schwarzenberg, or the Duke of Wellington in the field. But you still would have him beat almost 95% of the other generals in the world at that time. So that is where I would definitely still say he is a very valuable marshal.
Yeah. For me, it's just I don't know if the positives outweigh the negatives. Yeah.
That will end up being a subjective decision.
Yeah. Exactly.
I'm pretty sure we are going to get people are like, why did you not have Mira? Why do you
Oh,
not have Bessias?
that guy can go to hell. I hate that guy so much. Like,
I
I
dislike
don't care
Mira.
if he was like invincible.
He was
Like he could.
flamboyant.
Yeah,
He
it
was
doesn't matter.
flamboyant and brave.
I don't want him. I don't want him. You know, I don't want him anywhere near me.
One of the reasons I don't want Mira and Bessias is because they hate Lance. So I have that bias to say I do not like them for that. I can admit to that. And Mira, in all essence, has no strategic brilliance. He's a brave leader of men, fearless. I do not doubt that. But he was the one marshal that did not push, for example, in Russia to stop the advance. He was the only one that's kind of like still encouraged Napoleon, and that was enough. Because if all the other marshals managed to provide a united front, it might have been enough. But
Everything
Murat,
Murat does well. There are other people who just do way better. You know, popularity. Look, maybe he was the best cavalry commander though.
I mean, you could also make a case of General Grouchy also being a very capable cavalry commander.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're just talking about their ability to lead a cavalry unit, definitely. Even might add Miraz, he tried an attack in the first siege of Mantua to try to sneak over in Austrian uniforms, and that kind of failed. He and Lanz in the Ulm campaign in the build up to Austerlitz, they actually tried to stop an Austrian commander from blowing up a key bridge, but Lanz
Yeah.
is the only guy that grabbed the
Yeah. He
fuse
grabbed the
from the
fuse
soldier.
there.
Murat and Lanz are just like bluffing and just saying, "Oh yeah, we've signed a truce."
Yeah.
And I think Murat was kind of pissed off with Napoleon for not giving him the Spanish throne. He actually expected that.
I mean, I wouldn't let that guy anywhere near that throne though.
Hey, he got the throne of Naples,
He
but
got Naples, and look at what he did there. You know.
yeah, do you know what was his, Craig? You know what was his first decision as King of
What?
Naples? Every soldier has to have a very extravagant uniform.
Oh, it's very important.
Yeah. He
And
was
I think
so
because he was doing
flamboyant.
his, yeah, and not to mention
Hey,
he was a real traitor.
if I need help getting dressed, I'll pick him. But you know, this isn't what about that.
Uh, yeah, I think when he asked when he was to be shot, it was said just don't aim for the face.
Yeah.
He was pretty vain that way, but yeah, I don't agree with his brilliance too much. He was brave, but I don't see him as being like one of the most important marshals. Like guys like Lance, Berthier, Sult, they had like valuable skills that anyone would need.
Hmm.
Sushi, I mean, if you were to just give Lance and Sushi 80,000 men, some supply lines, and just tell them to go and conquer like some region, right? They can get the job done.
Hmm.
And Bessiers, just because he and Mira kind of for like put the embezzle, they tried to put land on fraud for the mismanagement of the funds because lads don't have that education.
Oh, is that what
And
it's
he went,
about? It was
yeah,
framed, right?
that's how,
Oh,
yeah,
oh.
Bessiers did that. And then Ojiro bailed out Lance, but Lance was then kind of sent into disgrace as ambassador of Portugal for 3 years, where apparently, like, Lance there he saw the British ambassador going ahead and he forced his rider in the carriage to go past him just because, like, fuck you. He wanted to
Yeah.
do that. He wanted to show up and he actually impressed the Crown Prince of Portugal that's kind of like how he came back into the good graces of the emperor.
Hmm.
But yeah, there were like a few honorable mentions I did not get, and at least for me, it would have been Marshal Davu and MacDonald and Poniatowski, who I would have they just did not make the cut. And Bernadotte, again, is just because of the jealousy, he never got the chance to truly shine.
Yeah.
Because the others we have track records, right? Bernadotte, even in the Battle of Austerlitz, for example, had a very small role to play. Like you would say, easily Sult, Lanz, and Davu's units performed, and even Bessier's Imperial Guard, they performed way more than Bernadotte's first corps. But yeah, this is, I guess, our dream team. So,
Yeah.
Craig,
Yeah.
for a change, thank you for being a hostage today.
I
And to the audience,
have said nothing. Yeah.
and for the audience, feel free to comment. Let us know who you would have taken for 10-man Marshals team.
Is
yeah.
Masena a scumbag or not? Tell me. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I can already tell based off of the way that this episode went. We have an associated clips channel that just came out. Honestly, if everybody could go look at Echoes of War podcast clips channel just to help it out, because it's a brand new channel on YouTube. It's like almost impossible to do a startup these days. It's very hard, but I can already say that every single marshal that's been mentioned is probably going to get like an individual 10-minute video. So it's going to be a lot of content put up there. It's going to be interesting.
I think it's pretty good that we have this clips channel because we even put talking about the generals. I think recently we've been putting a bit about Douglas MacArthur from our Philippines campaign video.
There's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot up there. It's like there's 1 week's worth of just in some way me kind of criticizing Douglas MacArthur. Yeah, that's just the way it's going to be. But before I let the audience go, again, if you'd like to further support the channel, check us out on YouTube. It really helps. Not that you should listen to us on audio podcast platforms, but having a presence on YouTube, definitely, it's like having a complete second audience, and it really helps you grow. You can also support us by checking out the YouTube membership on the Pacific War channel on YouTube. And you could check out instead the Patreon, which is at www.patreon.com/Pacific War channel. They're identical in price and what you get. I favor the Patreon more because they treat you a little bit better, in my opinion. But if you join either of these, you get access to the exclusive podcast series. There's a lot of content coming out this month. You get early access to all the content I make and voting rights for the subjects I will tackle next. And everybody voted for 2 things this month, so it was so close. So I had to do both episodes. So you're kind of getting a bonus. So there you go. And again, thanks to our guest Victor for coming here. This is awesome. This is a very interesting and different type of podcast. I think, especially for people who are interested in Napoleonic era or just the time period of even like the 19th century and how warfare was done. This is pretty interesting stuff. And if you want to hear more of it, like they said, please comment anywhere you like, and we'll get back to you. Until then, bye guys.
Bye. Thanks everyone.